And we're live. Hello and welcome to CAD Live 35, which rhymes. CAD Live 35. That is 35 wonderful episodes of this fantastic show, the only dating show on the internet where we give you live and direct advice and answers to your questions, your problems, your issues, your challenges in dating, whatever it is that you are facing right now. Stick it in the chat and we will get to it and we will answer your questions and we'll solve your dating dilemmas live on stream. Welcome everybody. This one is again one of these ones where I've just advertised it a little bit late. I've basically just gone live, so we'll see who turns up and who doesn't turn up. But if you're watching this on the replay, thank you ever so much for tuning in, and I hope this is going to be a robust and actionable show for everybody, because what we're going to be talking about today is basically talking or communicating with women, principally with women with the opposite sex. But I mean, again, like with all of these things, this also has application in your regular social life as well, because talking to other people, communicating with other people, it's the lifeblood of what we do. It's the lifeblood of what we talk about here. And yeah, I want to crack into it and get into it in today's episode. I hope everyone had a great weekend, though. I hope you had a good time. I hope you were out and about. We got some kind of maybe some good news in the UK. You know, it looks like some restrictions are going to be eased next week on December the 2nd. So that's good. I've yet to read all the details on that, but, you know, that's kind of cool. It looks likely that the Oxford vaccine is effective and it's going to get rolled out. So people may have varying opinions on that, but let's face it, you know, it does hopefully look like going into 2021, things will start to ease in terms of these restrictions, in terms of, you know, how people can lead their lives, which has got to be good news. I mean, you know, and I know that people have some wacky ideas about all this stuff, but listen, to be honest, if we can get out there and party, even in a lesser way than before, then that's got to be a good thing, right? Because I don't, as much as I love sitting in the house and chatting on the internet, you know, I also like to do some other things as well. And it's nice to think that perhaps that will be a possibility in the not too near distant future. Obviously, they've got a chance to ruin Christmas first, so thumbs up to that. But, you know what? Let's see what happens. I think it's going to be okay. JD says curfew is up to 11, but last orders is now 10 p.m. Yeah. Well, what's happening with the pubs, though? Are the pubs actually allowed to open, or they've got to be serving food, right? They've got to be serving a substantial amount of food, I think, in order to stay open. So the devil, as always with these things, is in the detail. But I think what was interesting with the current lockdown restrictions is that there was a gap between what they said about what it was going to be and then what it actually was. When you actually looked at the legislation, it was actually less restrictive than perhaps we thought it was going to be. And, you know, it hasn't actually been so bad in the capital city, in London. But it's certainly, you know, it's certainly welcome that we're going to see a further easing of the restrictions. And, you know, I mean, the thing is, in the end, people will act to the letter of the law rather than the spirit of the law. You know, people will look at, well, what's actually legal, and then they'll push up against that. And I guess the government knows that. So, you know. Anyway, I'm being very UK-centric here. Yoshi Killers said, initially, I didn't like you, but you've grown on me. Thanks, man. Appreciate you for saying that. And appreciate you for tuning in. Winston says, the enchanting Troy. I'm not sure I deserve that epithet, but thank you ever so much for saying that. Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. D Ram says, greetings, Troy. Greetings, D Rams. I hope you're all having a good Monday so far. And JD says, it's strange they're very anti-bar. They just want to save the boring family restaurant bars. Well, I think Wetherspoons are going to be okay regardless. And actually, Wetherspoons gets a lot of stick, but I don't mind a cheeky Wetherspoons from time to time. The breakfasts in there are actually quite good. The meals, I mean, we're not talking Michelin star here, but the food's actually not too bad. So I don't hate Wetherspoons as much as some people do. But yes, I mean, it's a shame. I mean, I suppose the rationalization really is they just don't want loads of people getting uproariously drunk and falling all over each other in the street. And as much as we rail against that, I guess you can kind of see what they mean. But I mean, on the face of it, it is certainly illogical to say that you can get a bunch of people inside in a certain type of venue, and then just because alcohol's being served, you can't. I mean, none of it really makes sense, but I don't know. We'll have to see how things go. Alton Migtail says, greetings from South Africa. Greetings, sir. Thank you for not just going your own way, but coming our way for this hour and tuning in. Good to see you, mate. So yeah, what about this thing about communicating then? What about talking to women? It's tricky, right? It's not always so easy. I've got a post from Reddit here, as I often open the show with something that somebody said on Reddit or on some other forum. This is from something, it's called Ask the Red Pill, if you guys are familiar with that particular Reddit. And here's what the dude says. This is posted today. He says, I just simply cannot communicate with women. Okay. And he gets into it. Long story short, I've always been poor at communicating with women. I lost my mother when I was an infant. And since then, I've always had this missing piece of my person, which has impacted me well into adulthood. The most profound impact it has had is on my ability to project confidence towards and read women, especially on first encounters. Okay, so confidence and ability to read. We'll get into in a minute the thing about his mother. I'm not sure. Well, I don't know. We'll discuss that in a moment. I'm not sure how much that necessarily affects it, but I get where he's coming from. He said, I've always been considered a good person, perhaps too nice. Well, obvious alarm bell there. I have more empathy than most women I've come across. And for a man, this is considered a weakness. I'm not bad looking. Most people would say I'm good looking, probably a 7.5. I don't have alpha or Chad characteristics, though. Slim build, more of a cute or pretty boy face rather than a hot face. I'm 29. Okay. Baker says, greetings, Brazilian fan here. Good to see you, man. Awesome to see you. I really want to come to Brazil. I'm hoping to get to Brazil at some point, in the not too distant future. So let's see what happens. But I would love to get over to Brazil very soon. A friend of mine lives in Rio, actually. James Tusk is going to be over in Rio, I think, quite soon. So let's see what happens. Anyway, continuing with this guy's story, he says, let's just say I've been on 10 dates since last year, and only 20 to 30% of the women were interested in anything further. So out of 10 dates, 2 or 3 women kind of interested in, taking things a bit naughty, I suppose is what he means. I'm not an incel by any means. I've had sex with 10 different women, but never had a long relationship. Lucky him. I'm only joking. But it's funny how a lot of these people, they'll hold up having a long-term relationship as being the holy grail. And of course, as we know, relationships, while very lovely and very nourishing and nurturing and all the rest of it, sometimes can also be incredibly problematic. So don't believe that, oh my God, if only I could just find a relationship with that one girl, then everything would be all right. Because it doesn't really work like that. You get into a relationship and actually that's the start of your problems rather than the end of your problems. But anyway. So where are we now? None of these women, you would say objectively, was better looking than me. Most were also 7 or 7.5. Well, we'll get into that as well. I'll get into all these points later, but it's interesting. He says that the women are not necessarily better looking than him. And again, we might want to question how much that actually makes a difference. Not very much. Right, sorry. For me, communication with women is a real struggle. It feels like everything I do totally backfires. I went on a date recently. We went for a long 2-hour walk and had a good conversation. I felt it was going well. At the end of the date, she asked me to text her when I got home. Lo and behold, I got home and texted her. After that, I had one cold response and then ghosted. I just feel I do everything wrong. I'm the sort of person that thinks if I don't text her as she asked, she will feel bad. Okay, so falling into her frame, okay? So that is a bit of a red flag, a little bit of a red flag already there. I can't play the game at all. I think this is due to deep-rooted problems related to my upbringing and lack of a female figure in my life, and I just feel totally doomed. Okay, so lack of female figure. And then he says again, I'm a good person, but totally unlovable for the modern woman because I don't scream confidence or sex appeal, and I'm not really an alpha guy, especially given the options they have. Please help. Okay, so listen, I think that we can get a sense of what this guy's problem is, and as Carl says here, $50 says no Keno. I think that is very, very likely. It's extremely likely that this dude is not going in for any touch. It's also extremely likely that there is no erotic tension in the date that he was on, right? You know, he didn't push the envelope. He didn't make things sexy. He didn't manage to initiate or to maintain any sort of like sexual tension. Okay. And those things are really, really important. Okay. Like erotic tension is really, really, really important. Okay. You've got to have that. If you don't have that, there is a very good chance that you're going to get friend zone. There's a very good chance that you're going to get kicked to the curb by the particular girl that you're dealing with. AC from Casey says, Troy needs to burn that shirt. Oh my God, that shirt looks gay. It is gay. This shirt, well, it's not even a shirt, actually, it's a jumper. This jumper is homosexual. I'm not prejudiced, are you? You know, why are you worried about it? You know, just because my jumper's homosexual, it doesn't mean I am. I'm in a long-term fulfilling relationship with a very beautiful woman. So it's not an issue for me. If you've got a problem with it, you know, take it up with my jumper after the show. Okay. But yeah, you need that sexual tension. You need that erotic tension in order to create that spark. Okay. That's where spark comes from. When you go on a date and then afterwards the girl says something like, well, I just didn't feel the spark. You know, I just didn't feel that chemistry. What she really means is that there was no sexual tension there. And the reason there was no sexual tension there was because you treated her like a friend. You friend zoned yourself. Now, it is the case that there are some women where you just naturally, there just is more sexual chemistry present. Okay. And there are some women that you will meet where there's just no sexual tension between the two of you at all, and nothing you can do is going to change that. But, and this is my experience out there in the trenches, out there in the dating marketplace, chipping away the rock face of modern dating, is that there are certain things that you can do to increase the likelihood of there being that spark, increase the likelihood of there being that chemistry. Now, it's not guaranteed. It's not going to work with every single girl that you meet. That's just not how life is, right? But there are some very simple things that a guy like the OP here is probably not doing, one of which is Keno, that Carl refers to, which is basically touch. And by the way, I should stress non-creepy touch. We're not talking about anything weird here. We're not talking about any sort of like, non-consensual kind of bodily invasion or anything like this, but just little bits of natural, normal touch during the conversation can really help to bring that vibe alive, can really help to sort of increase that sense of a spark between the two of you. And if you're not doing those things, then it's much more likely that you're just going to get chucked to the curb. You're just going to be friend zoned. You're not going to be seen as a contender. Okay. So even in a situation where the reality is it's probably not going to work out, you may as well try to initiate that chemistry. You may as well try to push the envelope a bit. Like if you're going to get blown out anyway, then you might as well get blown out on your own terms. Okay, you might as well go in there being yourself, being that guy who's confident, who knows what he wants, and has boundaries, and is being very upfront. And this is the thing, there's no manipulation in any of this. This is very much like, look, I'm a guy. I think you're very attractive. I'm here, to explore that with you, if that's something you'd like to do. And here we are. We're a man and a woman. We're consenting adults. Let's proceed down this path. Now, if she doesn't want to do that, if she is unhappy with that for whatever reason, that's absolutely fine. You say your goodbyes and then you move on, right? But what you don't want to do is make the mistake of going on that date and just making it like a job interview, or making it like a very friends-only type thing, because that's just not doing yourself any favors whatsoever. But what about this guy's... so Anon says, some dates there's just no sexual chemistry. I don't force it. Yeah, he's right. I mean, look, you can't force it, is the truth. Like if it's just not there, then it's not there. But in that instance, I would then cut the date early on. Like I wouldn't seek to prolong that date any longer than is absolutely necessary. You want to get out of that date as, like after one drink, you might want to make your excuses and just say, listen, I've got to be up early tomorrow. I've got a meeting. So let's get the check, whatever, right? There's no point in prolonging that kind of a situation. What you want to do, and the other key way to create that kind of tension is flirtation, right? So you want to drop in a few vaguely flirtatious things. You want to maybe a couple of double entendres. You just need to, through what you say plus how you say it, make it very overt that you are a guy who is in charge of how he feels, and you're interested in her in that manner, and lay it out there, right? Not in a direct verbalized way. You're not saying, right, so I'm interested in you, and blah blah blah, where are we going to be in 10 years time? Not at all. But you want to make it kind of overt. This is what we're doing. We're on a date. I'm attracted. I believe you're attracted. Let's get this thing going, and then take it from there. It's better to get shot down, in other words, than it is to live in a grey area. But anyway, what about this guy's post? What do we learn from this? Well, I just simply cannot communicate with women. Okay. And very quickly, he mentions this thing about his mother. He says that he lost his mother very sadly when he was an infant. And since then, he's always had this missing piece of his person that's impacted on him well into adulthood. The most profound impact it had was that ability to project confidence. Well, yes, this is true. Formative incidents like this, formative tragedies like what he's describing, which is basically he lost his mother very sadly when he was an infant. Yes, this is going to have an impact on you. This is going to affect your development one way or the other, right? And it's likely not going to be positive, right? You've had to deal with something really, really terrible and really, really trying at a very early age. And you've then had to grow into adulthood, not having the advantages that perhaps other people have. Like it's very easy. You've got two parents and the two parents are still married, and you're living in this happy family kind of setup. It's very easy to forget that not everybody has those advantages. Nonetheless, in the end, we have to reach a point where we start to take responsibility for our lives going forward. We have to reach a point where we say, okay, do you know what? This happened in my childhood. It was pretty rubbish. I've experienced trauma. I've dealt with that trauma to the best of my ability. And now I'm going to take ownership and I'm going to move on. And I'm not going to let the past define me any more. I mean, I have met people through things like recovery, alcohol recovery and so on, who have had horrendous childhoods, terrible things. George says, hi. Terrible things happen to them in their childhood. You know, really horrible, horrific abuse, horrendous things. And like we'll always say in an alcohol recovery meeting, you know, those things are terrible, horrendous. Nobody should have to go through that stuff. But that isn't the reason necessarily that person ended up being an alcoholic or having a problem with alcohol or with drugs or whatever, right? You know, it certainly didn't help, but the reason that they had it was largely genetic, really. But regardless of that, what these people at some point have to do is to say, okay, I get it. I've been through a terrible early part of my life, but I'm just, you know, like you only get one shot at this. Like we all only get one shot at this, right? And so either you're going to sit around for the rest of your life being defined by that terrible thing that happened to you when you're a kid, or at some point you're going to say, do you know what? I'm just going to move away from this now. You know, I'm just going to take responsibility and I'm going to become myself without being cheesy, you know, that self-actualization idea. The other thing I would say is that I don't know. I'm not certain the degree to which having your mother in your life really makes you better with girls exactly. I mean, there's something a bit Oedipal even about saying that. I mean, as it was for me, I lost contact really with my mother at an early age, fairly early age. Bravebird FTW says, looking classy per usual. Thanks, man. Thanks for tuning in. You know, I lost contact with my mother at a fairly early age because my parents divorced and my dad got custody of us. And then we went on to have a stepmother, and there were some issues there, some problems there. And, you know, I didn't have contact with my mother for many years. Then we got back into contact again, and we ended up spending, obviously, like rekindling the relationship, if you like, the mother-son relationship. And, you know, now it's all good many years later. But, yeah, I mean, and I'm sure, I mean, there's no doubt that those experiences affected me and they affected my social developments. But I'm not, I don't know. I mean, maybe you guys can help me out. Maybe you can put it into the chat, but I'm not sure. I'm just not sure that your mother is interaction with your mother is what really teaches you about game. I get the logic because it's sort of like, oh, it's this sort of like that female presence in your life. And if you lack that, then you're not going to be as good with girls. But like for me, I think what made me initially very bad socially and very bad with girls was not so much the divorce itself, or not so much whether my mother was around or not. It was more that as a result of that, I was very shy and, you know, had low self-esteem and all the rest of it. And so I didn't socialize very well when I was at school. And so I didn't socialize much with, you know, and I was introverted as well. So I wasn't socializing with the guys, and I wasn't socializing much with the girls either. And so I never really learned, you know, how to have banter, how to tease, how to have that kind of repartee with people. And then it took me a really long time afterwards to catch up. You know, it took me a hell of a long time in later life. And I'm talking into my 20s and into my 30s, arguably even still up to this day, to learn how to operate as as a normal social human being. It took a long time, but you can do it. This is the point. You can do it, and you don't have to be the greatest in the world. You don't have to be. They talk a lot in this space about the most interesting man in the world, don't they? And yes, I mean, that's a nice archetype, but you don't have to be. You don't even have to be the most interesting man in the world. You have to be good enough. That's it. You have to be good enough. And you can absolutely get to being good enough. It doesn't. You don't have to be some kind of silver-tongued social genius in order to to meet women and to have a great dating life. You really don't. You just need to be good enough, and you can get there. But at some point, you need to say, "Listen, I'm going to put my past behind me, and I'm going to move the hell on from it." Many people have had difficult childhoods, difficult pasts. And then there are some people who've actually had pretty good childhoods, a pretty good past. And those people can sometimes have problems as well. So there's not necessarily a direct correlation between the two things. George says, "Are you ignoring me?" No, I'm not. But don't be too needy, because it's not attractive. The balding janitor says, "I managed game for 3 months. I practiced game for 3 months, and I can finally say with pride that I managed to hold a conversation with a woman today and did not get a restraining order on me this time." Well, that is good news. That is progression, and that's what you get from coming to this channel. Okay, so then he talks about lack of. He says basically, I don't have that confidence. I don't have that chutzpah, that makes me good with girls. And there's something in this actually which I find quite interesting, because I think what he's sort of saying here is that he sort of is just naturally not that guy. I mean, like towards, where is it where he says this? I'm a good person. This is at the end. I'm a good person, but totally unlovable for the modern woman, because I don't scream confidence or sex appeal, and I'm not really an alpha guy. And I get where he's coming from, because I used to feel like that as well. I get where he's coming from. But, George, do you agree with my above comments? What comments? I don't see the comments, man. YouTube is probably blocking them out. All I can see from you is I don't know, read your comments. Are you live? I think they're blocking out your comments, man, because they're probably disgusting, and maybe you're using naughty words and things like that. And that's not the kind of thing we encourage on this channel. This channel is about clean living. It's about Christianity. It's about good vibes. So that's probably why your comments are being blocked by YouTube, I would think. But yeah, anyway, so he's saying he's not that kind of guy. I don't scream confidence or sex appeal. I'm not really an alpha guy. But the thing is, right, those things are not the great news about confidence and that screaming sex appeal that he's talking about is that you can change those things himself. You could change those elements of your character yourself by making the effort, by working on yourself, by self-development. Okay. So yeah, like those things are within your power. All right. And it's kind of interesting because he's not coming at this from a black pill perspective where he's saying, well, I'm not good looking, so I'm screwed. He's sort of saying, well, I don't have alpha characteristics, which are confidence and, sexiness. And so I'm screwed. But actually, that's even more pathetic in a way than the black pill thing, because if all he thinks he's lacking are those things, well, those things you can get, by working on yourself, by doing the mindset stuff, by doing CAD Academy. You can get those things because this is the stuff that we teach in this space. So, if he's saying his problem is not that he's not good looking, but that he's sort of, he doesn't come across very well, that is something that's 100% within your control and something we should all be working on. Because when you come across differently, then you are going to get different results in the dating marketplace. Carl says, I'm pretty sure Troy has anyone with the name George blocked from commenting. Yes, indeed. Yeah. What else are we talking about here? So, yeah, he then talks about the ability to read women. And again, I mean, this may to some degree pertain to your mother. Maybe if your mother was there the whole time, are you going to be better at reading women? Perhaps. Again, I would say for myself that the issue was more not so much about my mother, it was more about school and like how social I was at school, and that was impacted by stuff that happened in my family. I mean, like, and as well, I mean, I've got sisters, so I had plenty of opportunity to I was like hanging out with my sisters to see women, girls close up, how they operated, etc., etc. And I was still rubbish at it anyway when I was at school. So I'm not sure that you really, like, people say, oh, you got sisters, so you'll understand women. And for me, that kind of wasn't how it worked. I had sisters and I was still clueless. So I think the real training early in life happens in the playground, in the school playground, with your classmates, with the people you grow up with socially. And if you miss out on that, like I kind of did, then I think that causes a problem. But I'm not sure it's family that's really going to turn the dial here. But anyway, regardless, he's basically saying, look, I had an unfortunate start in life. I wasn't able to, I wasn't able to learn what I needed to learn. And my social and dating life has suffered as a result. Another thing that was interesting here is that he talks about the women that he's dating actually not being that better looking than him. So he says that he rates himself at a 7.5. And he says that objectively, none of the women he's been with, so he's been on 10 dates, and of those, about 20 to 30%, so that's 2 or 3, were interested in taking things further. So a minority, which actually, to be honest, and this is the other thing, right? Okay, listen, for dates, if he said he's gone on dates with these women and he's getting 20 to 30%, that is a bit low, actually, because really, when you get to the date stage, you should be looking at about 50% conversion, if you like. Like you go on a date, she's already kind of interested in you. So from then, it can kind of go either way. It should be about 50-50. So the fact that he's at 20 to 30% actually is a bit of an alarm bell. He's clearly doing something wrong on these dates, because his conversion rate should be higher. If he was saying, I've done 10 approaches and then of those 20 to 30% gave me their number or were interested in meeting up with me, that would be pretty that wouldn't be bad. That'd be kind of standard, really. But given that he's talking about dates, again, I like we're saying, I think that he's doing something wrong on these dates. He's not coming through in a powerful enough manner. But yeah, so he's saying the women that he's dating, that he's not ending up getting really any further with, is that they're about the same level of attractiveness as him. They're 7s or 7.5s. And this is interesting, isn't it? This is what we talk about a lot in this space, which is that, like girls want to trade up. They want a better deal from the marketplace, perhaps than they're warranted. That's what it comes down to. And I think guys do as well, to be fair. I mean, listen, if you too, if you're on Tinder or something like that, you'll be looking at your matches and you will be looking at the, of the girls that you've maybe matched with and you're chatting with. If there's an option for you to go out on a Saturday night, you'll probably be looking and going, well, okay, so which is the cutest one of these? You're going to want to get the best deal as well, but so does she. And so the fact that you guys are a similar level in looks, this is one of the things that trips guys up, because, and I used to be like this, you kind of think, well, she's about the same level as me. it's not like she's like miles better than me. So surely I should be in with a chance. And unfortunately, guys, that's not the case, because she wants the dude who's the Chad. She wants the guy who's better than you. And this is why guys have to work harder. That is to say, you need to be putting in more. You need to be putting in more volume, meeting more girls in the first place, and you need to get better at game. So you're maximizing your opportunities with each particular girl. With each particular girl you meet, to give you the best chance of getting somewhere with that particular girl. Dov is saying, do you think, Troy, don't see our comments here on YouTube now? No, I'm seeing the comments. I'm looking at the StreamYard stream, so I'm seeing all the comments that are coming through from YouTube, and also as well from Periscope as well, but maybe not all of the comments from Periscope for some reason. I don't know. Or maybe some of these things have been blocked out. But let's see what Dov was saying. Dov says it's so hilarious to watch John's streams about smashing the black pillars. Indeed, very amusing. And also, where is this thing? Oh, I've lost it now. Dov made an interesting point about wearing more Rockstar type stuff. Where's that comment? Damn. Sorry, Dov. You made a comment saying that you were getting more consistent results now that you've changed up your look and you're going for more of a rock star. Oh, damn. Sorry. Listen. Sorry, guys. So sorry, it was Michael. Once I developed a consistent theme to my outfits, I started getting more looks, also known as rockstar outfits, rings, chains, black clothes, jeans. Absolutely. And this is something I actually talk about in CAD Academy in the fashion section, which is really creating an archetype for yourself, something that you are, that resonates with you, something that's authentic to you. But if you lean into an archetype, the last thing you want to be is beige, boring, forgettable, all of that BS. Like if you are that dude, like you can't be surprised that she's gonna pass over you. Like you've got to bring something to the table, right? And ideally, what you want to bring to the table is you are more interesting and more exciting than the last dude who hit her up and tried to get her out on a date, or who did go on a date with her. You want to be that guy. You've just got something about you that's kind of interesting, And I believe that most dudes fall down at this because they come across as very boring, very normie, bloody, bloody, blah. And then they just kind of expect the girl to fall into their frame. And the reason for that is because they bought into an incorrect idea of how dating works. They think, well, all I really have to do is be a good guy. She will get to know my good qualities and then she will fall at my feet. And actually, that's not really how it works. Like you can have all the good qualities in the world, but like a lot of guys have got those good qualities, to be honest. And where is your standout? Where's your USP? Where's the thing that makes you special and unique and different, so that she just she's kind of fascinated with you. She's got that, like, you've got that mystique. She's like, oh my God, there's just something about this guy. I can't get him out of my head. I have to go and see him again. That's what you need to be projecting from the first interaction through to the date, through to the rest of the time you guys are, interacting together. Paul McKee says, masculine aura, exude it. Women and men will both submit, follow, and respect. Absolutely. Indeed. Michael says, I've always gone for people who are higher on the market than me. Me too. Because what's the point? Right. You might as well, you want to aim for you want to aim high. You don't want to aim for people lower. You don't want to be settling. We're all hypergamous in our own way. It's just that men have more of a tough time optimizing it, really. Unless you're one of those dudes, you've got your life together. You're living that hot dude life. You're living that CAD life. You're living that CAD life. That was clumsy, wasn't it? You're living that CAD life. You're living that renegade life. You're living that hot dude life. You are that guy who has optimized his own value in the marketplace. And then all of a sudden, you are then hypergamous, right? you can then start to pick and choose. You are then, maybe you're seeing a girl one time, she comes over, there's something she does you don't particularly like, you kick her out, you're like, I'm not interested, I don't want to see you again, whatever, right? I mean, that's where you want to get to, where you are then, and then she hits you up the next day on message, and you're like, well, sorry, I'm seeing somebody else, I'm doing something else tonight. That's where you want to get to. You want to be the one who's sought after, not the one who's like scrapping around trying to find the crumbs from the marketplace. Michael says, ballsy approach has worked most of the time, I guess. Yes, absolutely. A ballsy approach evens up the score. It really, really, really does. Jacques says, what does CAD stand for? Charisma and Dating Academy. It's my course. It's out on the 1st of December, which is next week. It's going to be open for 5 days for enrollments, capping at 100 students. So you need to act fast. There's a trailer up on this YouTube channel now. I'll be putting out more information this week. Suleiman says, I want more black pills. Does that make me hypergamous? I'm not sure if it does, really. MSO007 Drawing says, what's up, Francis? I'm planning to make 300 approaches. The problem is I have no idea how to start a conversation. What is your advice? Well, I would veer towards the London day game model, which is to say, basically, you open with a compliment. So you go over and you're upfront about why you're talking to her. You walk up and you say, hey, listen, I just saw you in this beautiful coffee shop, in this bar, in this library, wherever you are, in this prison facility. And I think you look really nice. And I had to come over and say hi because I knew I'd just regret it always if I didn't. My name's Troy. Who are you? Tell me something interesting about yourself, whatever, right? So you open like that with a compliment. You can also open indirectly. So you might say something like, oh, I love your style. That outfit you're wearing is really cool. You look awesome. I like that silver coat you're wearing. Something like this, whatever. And then you want to start to make some assumptions about her. So she goes, oh, thank you. That's cool. And then you're like, you look French to me. You look Italian. You seem to be the sort of girl who is a high-powered lawyer. I reckon you're in the fashion industry. I think this. You are this. And then throw some stuff out there. She's going to then agree or disagree. And likely she's going to give you some information. So if you say, oh, you're Italian, she might say, no, actually, I'm from Barcelona. You're like, and then you want to try and go into a little bit of storytelling. You want to hold court, even if it's just for a moment, for a few seconds. So then you might say, oh, no, Barcelona. Oh, my God. You're not one of those Barcelona girls, are you? I remember this one time. I was in Barcelona and we were walking down Las Ramblas and there was a beautiful sunset over the marina and all of the little bars were packed full of people and there was this wonderful atmosphere in the air. And me and my friends, it was our first day there and we were walking down. We were looking for an absinthe bar. And so we walked down the little windy back streets of the Barrio Chino. And we found this really famous absinthe bar and we walked into there and the atmosphere was amazing. There was this beautiful flamenco music playing. There was the smell of cigarette ash in the air. And there were all of these women just surrounding us. And to be honest, when we walked in, suddenly we felt really vulnerable because it's like there was all of these women. They were standing on the tables. Some of them were hardly dressed and they were looking at us like as if we were prey and they were predators. And we're like, oh my God, we're just going to get attacked in here. These women are just like off the hook. This is crazy. We feel like we're being visually, like violated here by all of these women. You Latin women, you've really got that kind of like, you've really got that naughty side to you. You're not like that, are you? I'm feeling a little bit nervous now. I've got to be a bit careful because I'm very well-behaved English gentleman. Okay, so you want to go into something like that. And it can kind of be bullshit. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't even have to flow particularly well. You want to go into a bit of storytelling. Now, hopefully, during that, she's kind of laughing. She's like, oh, ha, 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 ha. And then she's like, and she might then play along. She might be like, well, we are kind of dangerous, actually. And when that happens, that's a really good sign because then she's bought into that flirtatious frame. You've been positioning her as being a little bit dangerous, a little bit naughty, whatever. She buys into that. That's really cool. Okay. So that's the kind of thing you want to be doing. Hopefully then she will indicate in some way that she is invested in the interaction. So maybe she'll ask you a question. So how long were you in Barcelona for? Did you like it there? Where did you stay? What were your impressions of Barcelona? And at that point, that's a good sign, because she has invested in the interaction to some extent, which indicates not that she's necessarily interested in you, or that she wants to marry you or anything like that. But if she had no interest at all, she wouldn't try to prolong the interaction. And the fact that she has, therefore, is a good sign. So then you can slow things down a little bit, and you can start to move away from the playery type thing a little bit, and you can be a bit more normal. You're like, yeah, well, I was there for a couple of weeks. It's a great place for holiday. I was doing a little bit of work out there as well. Right now, I'm based in London, though, and I tend to work in that cafe over there, but then sometimes I go over here, and you can then bring it down and be a bit more normal. Then you want to exchange numbers. You're like, listen, it's been awesome meeting you. You seem really cool. I've got to get going. However, we should meet up for drinks. Let's exchange numbers. Do it like that. That's how you do it, and then rinse and repeat. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. You can do the same kind of thing, same sort of interaction. Obviously, they're all going to vary somewhat, but that kind of structure works really well. Yogi Honey says, with all respect, why not just be yourself? Women want genuine connection, not games. Well, I mean, I would say I don't think that that's not being yourself necessarily. I would say that I'm always myself when I interact with women, and indeed with other guys. I'd say I'm always myself, but the version of yourself that you show and the manner in which you show that version of yourself is the thing that's at stake here. It's the thing that's at issue here. So I would absolutely be yourself, but you want to be yourself in the best possible way. Backland Bob says, is CAD got infield? Yes, it has. Absolutely. We do infield breakdowns in the course. So it's, lots and lots of that stuff. In a way, that's one of the key parts of it, I suppose, because we'll show you some real material and how you really, really react in those situations. Michael says, can't build genuine connection without showing some charisma. There's a bit of a dance, isn't there, in the early stages of a relationship, in the early stages of a flirtation. And it's tricky because yes, you want to be yourself, but at the same time, it's like, the thing is, I would say, I don't believe that women are actually entirely themselves when you first meet them either. It's not that they're sort of like if I think about the girls that I've dated, if I think about my girlfriend, right? I mean, the way that the girl is when you first meet her in the first interaction, or maybe on the first date, or maybe the first time she stays at your place, or whatever, right? The version of themselves that they are presenting, it's not that they're pretending to be somebody else, but it is a slightly heightened version of themselves, And I think women will do this as much as guys. They will try to show the slightly more exciting, interesting, intriguing sides of their personality. Because, of course, I mean, everyone's going to want to do that, aren't they? It's not going to be like you walk up to the girl and be like, yeah, I'm just doing the laundry, 3 loads. I've got colors. I've got dark colors. And then I've got a white load as well. And I tend to use Surf deodorant because I quite like the smell. And sometimes I use fabric conditioner, but then I forget it because sometimes I forget. But it's usually a bit better when I use the fabric conditioner, to be honest, because it makes the fabric a bit softer. Because that is like doing your washing your sheets, washing your duvet or whatever duvet cover. That is part of you. That is being yourself. But is that the self that you want to show in a social situation when you're meeting somebody you're attracted to for the first time? Probably not. So is not talking about that, but talking about something else that's a bit more interesting and exciting, is that misleading? Well, not really. It's just showing a different aspect of yourself, right? So, yes, I mean, I would agree with Michael in the sense that you have got to show some charisma. You have got to, you want to you want to sort of it's the marketing, isn't it? You want to market yourself in the best way possible. I don't think it really means being. It doesn't mean lying. That's the key thing. That's the key thing I want to come across here, right? It doesn't, like, I would never say to people, you want to go out and talk to the girl and say, listen, I've got a Lambo parked outside and I've got a home in Malibu and, I've got millions of dollars worth of crypto and, I've got one of the first seats on Elon Musk's, trip to Mars when it happens. And, like, if those things are not true, I'm not saying that you should make things up. I'm not saying that you should misrepresent yourself, but I do think that, we want to be just a little bit careful about how we present ourselves in the initial stages. I mean, as Shoaib says here, the more exciting version of yourself to hook her. Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, I think that both genders do this. I don't think that, I don't think that this is something that is exclusive to men. He says white load could be interpreted in more than one way. It could be. I mean, maybe you can get a nice double entendre in through that. So, that's something to try. Right, Arnold says, do you think that the London model works in a small and not so culturally diverse town? Well, yes, it does. Yeah, absolutely it does. But you're going to get better results if you're in a larger place. And that's not to do with the model, because the model is basically just go up and talk to her, say some stuff, wait until she reciprocates, and then get her phone number. I mean, that's what the model is. It's not anything particularly out of this world. It's a very basic framework of how that conversation is going to go anywhere, really. That's how all flirtations go. That's just how, like, it's very basic stuff. But you are also always going to get better results if you're in a larger place, that isn't small, a place that is more culturally diverse. You're just going to have more opportunities. There's more anonymity. There's more of a buzz. Very small places are just not as good. So that's just how it is. But yeah, absolutely, that model will work for sure. Kwa says, what's up, Troy? Good to see you, man. Thank you for tuning in. Michael says, Taunton playing a conversation shows a level of predatory nature. The girl doesn't just want a man who gives her a bland monologue. She saves that for lunch with her father. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you want a little bit of the old, like sword fighting is a little bit of the parry and, whatever it's called. You want a little bit of interplay, flirtation. I mean, Tom Torero would always say that attraction is caused by friction. It's not caused by harmony. It's that friction that creates attraction. So that's what you want to lean into. Arnold says flirting is always a game. Brave Bird says, do you have any tips for dealing with masculine women? Don't. Go and deal with somebody else instead. Is my best advice with that, really. Guys have to become something, Baker says, and when they become something, they can better themselves. Well, yeah, I mean, it's been said many times, guys, women have somewhat inherent value, and men have to build their value. And I personally, I don't have any massive problem with that. I think it's kind of cool to be able to build yourself into something. I quite like having a project. I quite like having stuff to do, and so I'm not really bothered so much about the burden of performance. But yes, I mean, there is truth in that for sure. William says, this is an interesting one. I laid my mate's girlfriend because she's been throwing herself over me for months, and I told him. Now the dude is still with her and hates me, all because I exposed his girl. Is there a way to help him? Well, mate, I mean, I mean, if the fact that you've been with his girlfriend wasn't enough of a red flag for him to come out of that relationship, then he's on his own journey. But I mean, it seems a little bit like, are you really that you had sex with his girlfriend? Are you really that concerned about helping him now? I mean, come on. That seems a little bit, with respect, that maybe seems a little bit disingenuous, perhaps. But I mean, anyway, I think he needs to see the lesson for himself, and listen, I don't cast any aspersions on him, because this is a difficult situation. He's probably in one-itis. He probably recognizes on one level that he should get out of this relationship because of what's happened. Perhaps he's unable to do that at the moment. It's very hard to talk somebody down from that particular perch. It may just be that he's going to have to learn the hard way, and all you can really do is be there to help pick up the pieces. But you've slept with your girlfriend, so I'm not sure you're the best person to be picking up the pieces, to be honest. But I don't know your relationship or how you guys, interact or whatever. So I'm not sure. But I mean, just generally speaking, I would say he needs to learn his own lessons with this. Ubik says, "Are you considering phone calls on stream?" Yeah, probably. I would like to do that, actually. So I'll have a look into that. And maybe we can have a go at that for sure. Pietro says, "How many girls have you approached? First dates, latest dates?" I mean, that's some pretty comprehensive statistics. I think approaches, it's over 10,000 now. But bearing in mind, that is over a very long period of time, because I'm getting on a bit. So, 10,000 approaches over the course of, a couple of decades actually doesn't break down as being that many. But it certainly has given me huge insight into these interactions and how they tend to go down and blah, 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 blah. I think this refers back to William's post. Baker says, "Guess he needs a bigger trauma than that. Jesus, just get him to tell him to use condoms and not get trapped." Yeah, absolutely. And then Atham says, 1, don't fuck friends, and girlfriends are number 2. He can't be saved. Move on. Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to sort of I'm not making any moral kind of judgment on that, but I mean, it's kind of like, if somebody is going to help him, for a start, I don't think anybody really can help him except himself. But if somebody is it really the guy that slept with his girl? I mean, it just doesn't quite fit, I don't think. Troy, serious question. I know a girl like that. Girls are his number one priority, but he only ever gets 6s and his career is going badly. Does chasing girls make him become a liability? A guy, sorry, I missed the thread here. A guy like what? I think, well, I mean, look, I mean, if you're spending all your time chasing girls, but the quality is not great, and also your career is going badly, I mean, that's not a prescription for greatness, is it really? I mean, yes, I mean, it does become a liability, but that's why really you want to try to get this side of your life handled to the extent where you can then go and do other stuff that's more important, like work on your career and work on your project and all the rest of it, which you should be doing anyway, right? I mean, so it sounds like he needs to recalibrate things a little bit there. Nick says, you started approaching back in David D'Angelo days. Well, I mean, I'm in my 40s, right? So I started approaching in the 90s. So I suppose that was David D'Angelo days. I wasn't particularly aware of his stuff at the time because I wasn't into it. I only ever got into that stuff when I, in 2005, when I read the game and all the rest of it. prior to that, I was doing the approaching, but I wasn't into people like David D'Angelo. I mean, I got into some of his stuff afterwards, but I suppose the answer is yes. What else have we got? Paul McKee says 8s and above, you're going to have to throw some playful jabs. They get worshipped enough. Yeah, I mean, the old thing about negging, it got a lot of bad press, and perhaps rightly, but at the same time, you need some sort of friction, and you certainly don't want to be that guy who's a doormat. You certainly don't want to be the guy who's sort of like, laying down on the floor and prostrating yourself in front of her. What are we on now? Okay. Okay, I'm probably going to wind up quite soon. But if you've got any further questions or thoughts, put them in the chat and we can deal with them. JD says, was there ever a look or archetype you tried out before you settled on the one you have now? I guess that's directed to me. Well, I mean, not really. I mean, I've had some pretty funny looks, I suppose, back in the day. I had some different crazy things. Tartan trousers, silk shirts, lots of like, kind of wacky stuff at different points in my life. But I had bleached hair for a while, things like that. In the UK, when Paul Gascoigne had the bleached hair, it's quite fashionable for a while. Fashionable, actually, he got it because it was fashionable. It wasn't that he started it, but I had it around that time. So I've had some different looks over the years, but I wouldn't say there was ever a markedly... I wouldn't say there was ever... I tried to get into a look and it just didn't work, so I pulled back from it. I think I've always been quite good at sort of knowing what I wanted to communicate and leaning into that, if that makes sense. But, like, it's always good to experiment. If you can't, try something, see how it works. And, if it doesn't work, try something else. He says favorite menswear. Milton says favorite menswear designers. Well, I mean, it's expensive stuff. Tom Ford, of course. Gucci. I quite like a bit of Versace, actually, although it's very blingy. But I quite like the blinginess of it. There's also things like there are some shops in London that are good. A lot of stuff on German streets in London or Savile Row in London. Very cool. And then coming down to more high street, I'd say All Saints, the British make, good for leather jackets and things. Zara is always good. Top Man is pretty good in the UK. What else is there? There's another one I like, but those are the main ones. ASOS is quite good. You can send off for some stuff. Oh, Saint Laurent. Okay. Well, I do quite like Saint Laurent, actually, and I know somebody who works for Saint Laurent, and so I've got a couple of things from them, and I might be able to get some more stuff actually quite soon. So yeah, I'm up for. Yeah, I agree. No, they are good. I like them. Quite rock and roll. They changed designer though, apparently a little while back, so they're not quite as rock and roll as they used to be, but they are good. On your 10,000 sets, one of the most common sticking points. Well, I mean, the first thing is obviously the approach anxiety in the beginning. After that, it is not being sort of what we're talking about in this whole stream, actually, not being sexual enough, or not injecting enough of a subtext of erotic tension into the interaction, being too friendly, being too friend-zoney. That is not necessarily a sticking point for me, but this is just a sticking point that comes up a lot. I mean, and a sticking point in later years, after you get over all the approach anxiety and all the rest of it, becomes more like, can I be bothered to do this one? And you can sort of let yourself off the hook a lot because you're a bit like, do you know what? I can't really be bothered. And so sometimes you need to, you have to force yourself through it. Does that help? Sorry if I'm not more helpful with that. Those are sort of key sticking points. I mean, with other people, it tends to be being too friendly, being too nice, not injecting that sort of subtext into it, that kind of sexuality into it. Yeah, I think those are some of the main things. Which type of women have you found to be the most approachable, blondes, brunettes, or redheads? I don't think it breaks down like that, to be honest. I think they can all be approachable or not approachable, depending on it's not like things like hair color and stuff that really makes a difference. It's more individual than that, I think. But you need to go in. You need to just go in there and give it a go, regardless. Milton says, my All Saints leather Perfecto jacket has got me laid many times. I'm a big fan of All Saints leather jackets. I have a really, really good one that I've had for years. I'm big, really like it. Still looks good. Yeah. What about the couples? I find the couples quite an interesting sort of make, but it just seems a bit very expensive for what it is. Not that many pieces. I don't know. I've got a couple scarf actually though that I got the other day, which I quite like, which is quite cool. Jack, you should buy CAD now. Well, everyone should buy CAD now, except you can't because it doesn't open until the 1st of December, the 1st to the 5th of December. My course, my online mentoring program, CAD Academy, opens for new students. We're capping it. There's only 100 students can join in Q4. And basically what it is, it's 10 hours worth of video content where we talk about charisma plus attitude plus differentiation equaling attraction. That's the formula. Charisma plus attitude plus differentiation equals attraction. This is how to max out your attractiveness in situations with girls that you like. We're going to have 10 Zoom webinars after the launch in December, where it'll basically be like this, but on Zoom. So it's behind a paywall. We can go into huge detail about all of this stuff. I can help the individuals, and this is why we're capping the numbers. We can help individuals with their individual dating issues, really help you to shape up. We're going to be getting experts in on online dating, or Tinder, on Hinge, on Bumble. We're going to get big fashion experts, sex experts, Instagram experts, all different kinds of stuff we're going to cover. It is a personalized mentoring program delivered through the video course, but also through that Zoom tuition with me. Done. It'll be the third incarnation of this now. It's been brilliant the first two times. Got some great testimonials. Guys really finding it incredibly useful in terms of supercharging their dating lives, and you will too. So I'm looking forward to the launch, as I say, next week, 1st of December to the 5th. More information coming up on this channel this week. Dov says, and Dov, I got your other message. I will respond to that later. Thanks very much for that. Dov says, maybe approach anxiety is about the sexual framing of the context rather than approach just one person of the female kind. What can be done about it? Well, I think ultimately it is, approach anxiety is kind of like putting other people above yourself, because what you want in that situation is you want to speak to that girl because you'd like to get to know her, speak to that woman because you'd like to get to know her a bit, and maybe take things further, maybe go for a drink with her or lunch or whatever it is you're going to do. And you are held back from doing that because you're concerned about what she's going to think, what other people around are going to think, what the girl who's watching from the other side of the street is going to think, etc., etc., etc. And actually, you shouldn't be concerned with really even with what she thinks. I mean, I'm not saying that you want to go in there and make her uncomfortable or anything like that, but the key thing really here is, what do you want? Well, you would like to get to know her, so you want to act on that. Now, if you then walk up and you start a conversation and she, she's not interested in speaking with you or continuing the dialogue, that's fine. That's her prerogative. You just say, okay, well, it was great to meet you. Just take it as a compliment. Have a nice day. And you walk off. That's absolutely fine. But in terms of the impulse to walk up and engage, you want to be thinking about your desire primarily, your interest in getting to know her. That's the primary thing, not so much what other people think, what she may or may not think, which you're second guessing anyway, by the way, what the people around you may think, because really the reality is they don't really care. It doesn't, they're not bothered. But you don't want to be thinking about all those other people. You want to be thinking about yourself, you know, bringing that sort of personal autonomy into it, that positive selfishness into it a little bit, while also, of course, respecting other people's feelings, not being invasive, not doing anything creepy or weird, being authentic. But yeah, you know, you want to be thinking, well, what, you know, I only get to live this life once. Who are the people I want to meet? What's the kind of life that I want to live? How do I generate that? Well, I do that by going out and taking action. So that's what I'm going to do. What is differentiation? Well, we explain this in the course, but this is about how to stand out from other people, how not to be a boring normie, how not to be beige and forgettable and all of those things. And this is partly about fashion, but it's also about attitude and mindset. And that's what we do a deep dive into in the course. Nick says, do you prefer positive or negative energy when creating the initial spark in terms of tension you want to play with to create attraction? For example, making a semi-angry and then winning her over. Well, you can do that versus just making her laugh. I mean, I would say overall, I prefer a more positive energy. But it's got to be a positive energy tinged with an underlying tension, you know? So really, the idea is that you go over and you have a good interaction and she feels good and you feel good, you feel all that positivity, and then you maybe exchange details and, you know, you come apart from each other and it's like you both of you walk away thinking, well, that was cool, that was good, you know, it's great that we can interact and, you know, and then hopefully you meet up again and good things come as a result, right? So it should be positive, but it shouldn't be positive in a sort of happy clappy kind of a Ned Flanders sort of way. You know, if you watch The Simpsons, you know, that it's not like that. There's got to be a bit of an edge to it, right? Even if it's just implied. But at the same time, you want it all wrapped up with a cheeky wink, you know? So it's kind of nuanced, you know? So basically it's positive, but you want to show that you've got a bit of an edge to you, which is, you know, fits in with that differentiation piece we were just talking about. But and you don't want it to be too friends only either. So you've got to make sure there's a little bit of an edge to it. But overall, I would say positive. I mean, yes, there is the whole thing that you can, you know, make her a bit angry and all this kind of thing. But that's not really what I recommend. And you are playing with fire a little bit if you go down that route. You know, I think that those kinds of things happen more inadvertently, and then you're able to turn it around. I would say, you know. I mean, I do remember one time I met this girl on the London Underground, and the opener I used because I couldn't think of anything else, and the carriage was packed, and I sort of said she was carrying this kind of bag with like studs on it and things, and I just said, "Oh, nice bag." I mean, kind of lame, right? But whatever. Then we got talking, and one thing led to another, etc. And then later on, she said she was Russian. She said, "Oh, I wish you'd have just called me a bitch." And you know, when we first, my first opener. And I'm a bit like, well, yeah, that might have been cool. That might seem cool, but actually, the reality is, you know, how realistic is it really that you just walk up to some woman that you've never met and call her a bitch? I mean, like, it's 9 times out of 10, it's not going to work. It probably wouldn't have even worked on that girl who suggested it. You know, because actually, you know, there's got to be some sort of propriety. So I think you're playing a risky game if you go in too combatively. Yes, it might create tension. Yes, you might be able to talk it around. But, you know, I prefer just to have a bit more of a positive vibe. Jokey, you know, fun. It should be fun. This is what it's all about, you know? Taylor says, what can we do with this nightclub lockdown situation where you can have tables full of girls and the security guy either says we can't talk to them or we have to sit down at the table? Well, it's difficult. I mean, mate, like I've said before, there are no pat, easy answers to this because we are in a situation that is unique. You know, like the world has never seen this situation before. I mean, if it is like that, maybe nightclub game is not a goer at the moment. Maybe you need to focus on some day game or focus on some online game. I mean, there aren't any just easy answers to these things when we are facing restrictions of a kind that are really unprecedented, you know? I did a video for my VIP group about this at the weekend. But I mean, maybe we have to work with what we've got. And maybe nightclub game just isn't the thing at the moment. I mean, it certainly isn't in England because there aren't any nightclubs open. So everyone's just had to learn to live without it. Our Atta says he is so gay. I'm not sure who he's referring to, but or what the thinking is there. But anyway, have you ever encountered someone trying to shame you for approaching? Not really. Maybe not really. It's not something that would generally happen, to be honest. I think more generally what happens is you'll make the approach and they'll just say, oh, thank you. Actually, I've got a boyfriend. Actually, I'm seeing someone, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's more like that than somebody really trying to be arsey about it. Well, you could try that. Yeah, I mean, I get that. I get what you're saying about Julian Blanc, and I mean, he had a famously combative approach. I think it depends on the environment. I would say that kind of thing perhaps works better in a sort of club type environment. It depends on your state. I mean, like you get to a state, I say state like momentum. And you can sort of get away with these things and you can say crazy stuff. And yes, but I wouldn't. I get that. And he had amazing game and I understand what he was saying, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I don't think it's necessary to be that combative. You can still get good results without it, I would say. What is your experience on time wasters, arranging a date? Some rules of thumb based on your experience. Cheers, Troy. Thank you, Johnny Bravo, which is a good good avatar to have, by the way. Well, you want to get to the point really where you kind of don't care if she flakes on you or not. You know, you want to get to the point where you've got so much abundance, you're just not that bothered. So you're sending out the message. You're like, all right, let's meet. We'll meet 8 p.m. on Cross Street by so-and-so bar. And it's a bit like, and then you're on your way to the day, you know, so you're making it as a quicker process as possible. Like you're saying where you're going to meet, you're making the decisions. You're like, this is what we're doing. Be there or be square. And you're on your way, but you're almost thinking, do you know what? If she doesn't turn up, it's kind of doing me a favor because I've got so much stuff to do, or I can see that other girl, or, you know, I can do this one thing that I've been wanting to do for ages. And the less that you care, I don't know what it is. There's some weird, like, karmic force in the universe, but the less that you're bothered about actually her turning up on the date or not, you don't really care that much, the more likely it is that they do. You know, and then you turn up and she's there and you're like, oh God, no, I gotta do the date. Do you know what I mean? So really, and this is through abundance, and it's through putting yourself first, and it's through being your mental point of origin and having a mission and all of those good things that we talk about. You want to get to the point where actually you don't care that much if she turns up or not, or what the hell she wants to do with the date. And then and when you're giving off that energy, then they're less likely to be flaky. They're more likely to turn up on the dates. And then, you know, it tends to just work better. You know, it's when you are very concerned, like, oh my God, I hope she turns up. And shall I message her 5 minutes before to make sure she's on her way? And you're really, really concerned about it, that you are giving off that kind of needy energy, and she is more likely to flake or whatever, you know. Jack says, I've got a 15-year-old nephew. I'm unsure about when to introduce him to your and other dating content. What age would you say is ideal to introduce him to this content? Well, I mean, I wouldn't like to encourage anybody under 18 really to, you know, like my content is aimed at adults really. I mean, I'm aiming at people 18 and over, I would say. You know, having said that, your own discretion is advisable. I mean, I think, you know, well, that would be my sort of PC answer, I suppose, really. You could certainly start chatting to him about some of this stuff. You could certainly sit down and start having some informal conversations with him and maybe giving your own experience of this stuff. I would say probably, you know, 18 is probably about right. But other people will have different perspectives, but certainly by all means, sit down and have the conversation with him, have a chat with him, give your own impressions of these things for sure. So Pietro says, my main sticking points are negative thoughts and beliefs and taking the girl into the house. Well, the two are connected, aren't they, in a way, and yeah, sorry. Actually, before I go into that, Anon says any age for red pill, for the raunchy content, 18 plus for sure. I think I'd agree with that. Really, I mean, I don't think I'm really saying anything on here that is unpalatable to somebody of a younger age, but at the same time, really, the content is aimed at sort of 18 plus. It's aimed at adults. So yeah, your own discretion really is advised, but I think you can, without a doubt, I think as a sort of an older brotherly type figure or cousin type figure, you can certainly sit down and start having a conversation about these things for sure. So Pietro says my sticking points are negative thoughts and beliefs and taking the girl into the house. The two things are kind of related. So you need to work on the mindset stuff really is the key. And of course, CAD Academy is absolutely the way to do that. CAD Academy, Charisma and Dating Academy, launching on the 1st of December to the 5th of December. We'll teach you all about how to get rid of those negative thoughts and beliefs and give you that kind of rock solid mindset whereby you are, you don't have a problem with escalating, which is really what he's talking about. Johnny says, how long would you text her back and forth after getting her number until you ask her out, suggesting when and where you will meet? Pretty minimal amount of time, backwards and forwards 2, 3, 4 times. And then you want to be saying, listen, we should really meet for drinks. I know this great place, blah, blah, blah. And then pushing it forward. Don't wait too long. Don't wait too long because you'll run out of steam. Otherwise it will sort of like, it will just run out of energy, and that's not where you want to be. You want good energy, forward momentum, and really you want to be pushing towards the date as soon as possible after the first meet. Lou says, dope sweater. Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. Paul says, dear nephew, don't pedestalize. Check back in a few years for more crucial info. Yeah. I mean, some of the things I would be teaching my younger self or younger people in general would be rejection doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter as much as you think it does. It is a numbers game to an extent. You need to be teaching like good positive mindset stuff and also lack of sensitivity. People need to desensitize themselves. I was far too sensitive for far too long. I was too worried about rejection, and that really, really massively held me back in terms of my dating life, and also, yeah, there is the soulmate myth. There is no one. Don't pedestalize. All of those things. These are the things you need to be instilling. Would you agree with Rollo's take on LMR simply being a lack of genuine desire? Last minute resistance he's talking about. Yes. I mean, in general, yes. I think that you want somebody who is genuinely, showing that genuine spark of desire for sure. So I think broadly speaking, I do agree with that. Tom says you can't get rid of negative thoughts. The more you talk to women, the better you get and the more confident you get. Negative thoughts eventually just become negligible. I think that's true. I would say, though, that for some people, doing a little bit of outside work can be helpful. I mean, I saw a counselor a therapist actually for some time to deal with some of that childhood trauma stuff that we mentioned earlier. How much it helped is debatable, but I think what it did do over a period of time was, whereas some time ago, like 15 years or so ago, I used to feel very weighted down by negative feelings and thoughts a lot. I got to a place because I shared a lot of it with somebody else, with the therapist. I felt less weighed down by it, which did help. But that was alongside also doing a load of these approaches. So, you might want to, depending on what your situation is, you might want to look into talking to somebody about it, doing a bit of talking therapy. But in the end, going out and about and chatting to loads of girls, that is gonna pay great dividends as well. Anon says, just ordered Renegade Blueprint. Thank you ever so much, sir. I appreciate that. So Renegade Dating Blueprint is my collection of 11 books that I've written about dating, the dating marketplace, game, my experiences within it, and so on and so forth. You can get it below. There's a link below in the description. It's only $39, and you get those like 11 books worth of content by me. So loads and loads of stuff in there. All of my best writing really about all of this kind of stuff you can get within there. And CAD Academy is the sort of online course version. It's the distillation of everything I've learned about dating and game and all that kind of stuff over the last 15 years, really. And as I say, it launches on the 1st of December. The enrollment period is from the 1st till the 5th of December. It's $497. And for that, you get the 10 hours worth of video content. You get the video course, which is 10 hours worth of in-depth information on charisma, on mindsets, on the bad boy archetype, on differentiation with fashion and how you look and how you come across. Plus the longest section, a whole section, game A to Z, everything you need to know about how to do game in 2020 and going into 2021. Incredibly comprehensive stuff. So you get all of that. Then you get the 10 live webinars as well, the private VIP webinars with me. Plus, we'll bring in some other people, like probably John MLD. I'll try and get him to come in. We'll get Myron to come in, all of these different people. So all aspects of your game will get polished up within those 10 live webinars, each 2 hours plus. You also get a couple of my books within the package. You get the infield videos as well, so you can see infield breakdowns of all of this stuff happening, real life interactions. So that's incredibly useful. It's a great package, as she said, and we're capping it at 100 students this time. So you're going to have to act fast on the 1st of December, but it will be worth the ride. It'll be a great way to finish up the year before we go into 2021 that hopefully is going to be a bit better. Hopefully we're not going to be locked up in our rooms for the entire year like we were in 2020. Nick says, "Oh yeah, Sterling Cooper coming in too, telling you how to bang." And Nick says that was a very clear description of the positive, negative, playful energy dichotomy. Thanks. No worries, man. I hope that helped. Thank you for tuning in. My DJ Jenny says, "Hey Troy, always great content. Have you read Appearance of Power by Tanner Guzzi?" I haven't, and I probably should actually. So maybe I'll grab hold of that. I mean, it sounds like on the surface of some of the stuff he's saying that I'm on a similar page to him, but it's a good point. I should probably read it. I mean, the thing about that is like he puts himself out there as being a fashion style expert. Okay, and I'm not really. I don't sort of like, I don't put myself out there in that way. I don't really. I mean, if anyone's interested in a consultation about what to wear, I mean, I'm happy to do that, but it's not something that I really directly advertise because that's not really. I don't see myself as being an expert in that. But what I do think that I have learned over the years is some basic principles about clothing, about style, about how to present yourself in a way that is, because basically what it comes down to, the TLDR is too many guys are just a bit boring. They come over a bit lame, a bit boring, not very kind of sexy. There's no standout. That's not what you want to be. You want to stand out. You want to create, you want to create that sort of wow kind of vibe when you meet her and fuel her fantasies a bit. That's what you want to do. And you can do that. And it's not actually that hard. Dove says, is CAD good for Steve from accounting? Yes, absolutely. Steve is welcome. And Dove says, thanks for the length of your Q&A CAD live streams. No problem at all, man. Glad to help. Glad to put out this free content. I'm glad everyone enjoys my length, if they do. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. All right, listen, guys. I'll leave it now because I've got to grab some food and do some other stuff. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. We will be back tomorrow at the same time, 11:30 a.m. EST, 4:30 p.m. GMT. Anybody got any ideas of topics that they want me to cover, anything that they want me to talk about? Leave it in the comments below. Drop me a message, etc., etc. Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow with some good stuff. Pietro says, what's an exercise to improve the assumption stacking? A day game technique that could be a water opener. I don't know what you mean by water opener. I mean, assumption stacking. I mean, basically, like we said before, there are three key things you can make assumptions about: where she's from, what she does for a job, and what she's doing now. So you might say, you're from Barcelona, you're from Italy, you're from Bolivia, you're from Colombia. You can make assumptions about that. You can make assumptions about what you think she does. I think you are very creative. I think you look like a scientist. I think you look like a fashion designer. You know, you can make an assumption about that. Or you can make an assumption about what she's doing now. You look like you've just come from the shops. You look like you're going to train for a triathlon. You look like you are stealing something from the local mall. You know, those are key things that you can jump off from. But this is something we can talk about more in a coming episode. Okay, guys, thanks ever so much for tuning in. Remember CAD Academy, get on the waiting list below. My email list is the waiting list, so get on that, and we will be sending out more information on CAD Academy this week. Enrollment dates are 1st to the 5th of December. Only 100 students allowed, so act quickly, and there'll be more information coming up very soon. Okay, bye-bye.